Welcome to the Place of Rest, where our aim is to give you language that helps you displace the growing confusion, chaos, and dis-ease of our times. My name is Jonathan Boyce, and it's my pleasure to bring to you today's episode. Virginia has a conversation with the CEO of EMF Solutions, Cory Hillis, to discuss the implications of electropollution and how it affects our health. Cory also discusses solutions he has created to aid in resourcing our bodies. We hope you enjoy today's conversation. The goal of this podcast is to educate our listening audience. While R.E.S.T does not promote products, the resources mentioned in this episode may aid the physical aspects of your constitution. In our recent health journey, our family learned of an incredible tool to help support detox and better sleep by mitigating the effects of electropollution. EMF Solutions provides a line of products that are instrumental in allowing the body to heal. We invite you to educate yourself, perhaps test the products for yourself, and let us know your results by emailing us at info@theplaceofrest.com. If you do decide to make a purchase, please mention R.E.S.T with Virginia Dixon.
Cory, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. So glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, this conversation is near and dear to our heart because we're about displacing confusion, chaos, and dis-ease in the spirit, the soul, or the body, and the insults that afflict us on any one of those fronts. We have a comprehensive integrative program that basically deals with the philosophy and the theology of psychoneuroimmunology, how the soul works through the brain and the body for wellness and wholeness, right? This conversation about electropollution is fascinating. And I was so impacted by a segment that I saw, heard, watched. Somebody sent something to me. I don't remember how I got your name and your information, but I thought we've got to have this guy on our podcast so you can educate us. We're about educating.
I love doing that.
Good. So tell us a little bit. And by the way, thank you for making not just your wisdom, knowledge, information, and all of that accessible to us, but above all else, thank you from the bottom of our heart for really taking the time to not just educate us, but to resource us. I know you've got some ideas about that. So as people listen, I'm hoping that they're encouraged because we're not just going to give you information, we're going to resource you. So with that, let us have it.
Yeah, so I'm a real science brain kind of person. I like common sense. I like things to add up. And there's some common sense in the world, not enough. And then there's some really smart people that know a lot of information about subjects, but they just can't use their common sense to put the pieces together. So I guess I'll go back to my beginning. I used to be a practitioner too, and I really appreciate what you do because I did similar things too. We focused on the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, all that stuff with our clients. That my wife and I were practitioners. And in our practice, we realized if we didn't address this invisible elephant in the room, this ginormous invisible elephant in the room, this radiation that keeps increasing over many years, that it was really hard to properly address our clients' health issues. If you go to Dr. Klinghardt or some of these people that are like, he's a Lyme expert or whatever, and he says, if you're going to not address EMFs and you're going to try to tackle Lyme anymore, good luck. It's almost impossible. So we realized it was really important. So we went out, we tested all the products we'd get our hands on. We realized we couldn't find anything that totally worked. Some things partially worked, some didn't work. So a few things made it worse. And that wasn't good enough. At one point, I was selling a thing that we put on our phones to my clients that were $90. And it took 3 of them and it still wasn't all the way remediated. So I'm thinking, right, it's $270 and my clients still don't have a phone all the way fixed. This is a problem. So I set out to try to figure this out. And in doing so, I realized nobody even realized, like the world, no scientist, nobody on the internet, no company that I found even realized how an EMF at lower frequencies is damaging our DNA and hurting our health. We have thousands of studies showing that's happening. It took the scientists 50 years to discover that X-rays, which is a high frequency radiation, was damaging our DNA. But now it's like common knowledge, right? You get an X-ray, there's a little, DNA damage. So you only get them when you need them medically.
This is so, I don't want to blow over that point you just made because you're saying so many important things, but EMFs at lower frequencies are damaging our DNA.
Absolutely.
And we have these little devices on us constantly.
Right.
It is imperative that we have protection against them. It's literally afflicting your health.
In big ways. And I'm not just saying it. Your cell phone, you just picked up, I think, a cell phone, gives off an enormous amount of radiation, and that has health effects. And there's places that I tell people to go. I like the bioinitiative.org. So it's just the word bio followed by initiative, no syntax or whatever, .org. And if you add /conclusions, that is a website with over 4,000 EMF studies at this testing cell phones, Wi-Fi, power lines, cell towers, all that kind of stuff, and how it's affecting our health. And 70% of them are conclusive, meaning there's almost no chance that this thing is not causing this health issue. And that's a big number. There's a lot of proof. There's more proof proving this stuff than proving smoking is bad for you. Yet it's swept under the rug because we like our phones, we like our technology, and the people that sell it certainly don't want to scare you. So that's why we're here. And it's been increasing like subtly and slowly over decades. So, 2 decades ago, it was a problem, but every few years or so, it gets exponentially worse.
That's right.
And so we're in this, if you just took 100 people from 1990, let's say, before all this stuff came around, you transported them to here, and then you checked how they all felt, it'd be a mess. A bunch of those people would report feeling terrible issues about their health, I bet you, because it would be all at once. And the fact that we've just got accustomed to it over the years, we don't even realize what's going on. It's kind of like if you smoke.
It's the frog in the frying pan thing when the heat gets turned up gradually, right? And before you know it, it's dying.
Exactly. So it's kind of like smoking. If you smoked a whole Marlboro Red cigarette, and you never smoked a cigarette before, you'd be puking, coughing. It would be a mess, right? But if you you become a smoker, your body builds up all these tolerances. Does that make it okay and it's healthy to smoke? No, it's still bad for you. But we don't realize how bad because it's just kind of gradually got on us and on us. So things like, let's talk about the symptoms that the Bio Initiative talks about. First of all, that page I gave you summarizes 1,800 studies. Okay, it's not like 100, not like 50, like from all over the world. Some of these studies that are out on EMFs include paid for by our federal government, by local governments, by the European Union, on and on. Like legit, like not some dude in his basement coming up with a wild conspiracy theory. So this is very proven. And they say that I can't even name this. I could be here an hour naming symptoms, but the really common ones are chronic fatigue, poor sleep, headaches, migraines, super common. Ringing in the ears could be common. But then you have immune system imbalances, which can affect all kinds of health issues. Cancers, tumors, Alzheimer's, the list goes on and on. Huge reproductive issues for people. Men actually have less than half the sperm now than when I was growing up. And nobody's asking why. The studies suggest this is a big reason, if not the reason. But I'll end on the last one of these, DNA damage. And the reason I end up on that one is because even if you don't think you have any of these symptoms, say, well, it's not affecting me. I'm not tired and I feel pretty good. You're getting the DNA damage. That's happening. Maybe you're handling that pretty well. But over time, is that going to affect you and how much and when? And so everybody's getting that. We've actually proven that and shown that in our own studies on human cells. Not me, but a lab in Texas. And that was a groundbreaking study to show our products work better than anything else in the world. But, that's what you can expect from EMFs. And a lot of people that don't even have like a sleep problem fix their house and everything in their life. And 50% of the time, at least in an internal study, and we're doing a clinical study now on that, but 50% of the time, their sleep is completely better sometimes first night or drastically improved from fixing EMFs with products, the correct products. So it's really affecting some of these conditions.
before we move on from this segment, because what you're saying is just groundbreaking for many people. We've been beating this drum in functional medicine for many, 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 many years. But like everything, it takes time for people to process, to chew on this a little bit, process this information, digest it, and then, of course, apply. It just takes time. So are you able to, there's people listening to this that are saying right now, he just mentioned every single one of my symptoms. And I live in the city. I live under power lines. They just put a tower in my neighborhood. Can you send someone out? Do you have resources? Can someone physically go to these people's houses, to our listening audience's homes, and make an appointment with you so someone can take inventory of what the ecology, if you will, of their environment looks like?
Yeah, so we have a whole sales team, and they're speckled in different states and different cities across the country. So I highly advise if somebody's still thinking, I wonder if this stuff is real, go to our website. It's EMF SOL, first three letters of solutions, EMF, like Edward, Michael, Frank, Sam, Oscar, Larry.com. So 6 letters. When they go there, they can find a tab, and I forget which tab it is. It might be, I'm not going to guess. The second or third tab will show you a list of sources where you can go to see studies by neutral places that just are posting thousands of studies all about EMFs.
And then so when they go to your website, well, it's a silent killer is the problem, right? The reason we want to get on this right away, and I want people to immediately, and we're not about sales, we're not pushing, we're about education. But if this is the first podcast that I've ever really, I told Jonathan, we need to make this resource accessible to people. So if they go to EMFS.com.
EMFSOL.com.
Okay. EMFSOL.com. Mm-hmm. They can go to contact us, for example, and make an appointment.
Well, what you do is on the first page, the home page, it says free home test. There's a button.
Okay.
That's free home test. Click on that, put in your information, and one of our reps will call you. The reason that's so awesome is because people, even after this podcast, if they listen to the whole thing, they're going to have questions specific to their situation or EMFs in general. They can get their questions answered. If the rep or they say, gosh, to fix my whole house costs this much, but I have this much, what's the most important thing I should do? They can customize and say, well, heck, if you do these 3 things, then you can spend a few $100s and fix 50% or more of your in the EMFs in your life. That's a really good chunk. Do that, So they can assess the person's situation, make recommendations, and that's all, free. It could be over the phone, or if there's a rep nearby, we do often send them in person, and that costs nothing. So that they come to your house, they test it with meters, like I can show you, and they give you an idea of what's around you in your house. The solutions are pretty cookie cutter, though, so they don't have to be there. But it's nice to be there because it gives people a little one-on-one personal attention, and the meters to measure and show their house is as messed up as we say it is.
Yeah. You have, is it 9?
Yeah. So a lot of people have probably heard about this. If they're in the holistic world, a lot of people have already heard EMFs. That's like a 5G. That's a big buzzword in the holistic world right now, because 5G is the highest frequency and newest generation of frequencies that are being sold by the FCC. And a lot of doctors and other people are very concerned about it. So those are like some hot button words. But if you're wondering, well, why would I go to EMF Solutions? There's some other things I heard are good, like grounding or negative ions, or somebody's got this thing called a Schumann wave maker, and I can go on and on. Why would EMF Solutions be so much better, and it is, than all these other solutions? Or what are these other solutions really doing? I explain it in that video online. So the little menu at the bottom of every single one of our pages, it says 9 ways to remediate EMFs. Click on that, it goes to a video that explains those things. So if people really want to educate themselves, it walks through what those things do, how they address EMFs, and how ours are addressing the root cause, and how some of those do indirectly and some of those don't at all. But it explains it all in real layman terms, easy to understand. So if people really want to learn, that's a great video.
Fantastic. Because and again, the things you shared on the front end and the connection to this electrical pollution that's really slowly killing us. And it is affecting every single area of our lives. We see it here firsthand. We have a lot of biometrics, acoustic mirroring systems, neurofeedback devices that are documenting the emotional, spiritual, and psychological effect of these currencies. At the end of the day, we're like conductors of electromagnetic frequencies. We're conductors, right, of these energy fields. Oversimplified, but at the end of the day, that's what's happening. And so to understand, or to at least introduce this topic, I think was my aim today. It was my hope. And then to resource people. So I'm so thankful that they can go to your website. There's free information there, all kinds of information and research. But I like that you also have products and resources to help them mitigate this almost immediately. Now, we have listeners all over the world in other continents. Are they able to purchase your resources as well and have them shipped?
They need to sign up, if depending on what country they're in. Almost every country we can get to, but they need to sign up for a free home test because we have certain representatives that are certified EMF specialists through us that specifically help the people in other countries. So if they sign up for a free home test, I'll know exactly which rep to put them to, and then they can get taken care of too.
Do you have representation in every state?
No, not, well, most states, but not, we don't give. So when somebody signs up for a free home test, I have a smaller handful of people we really trust that are super trained, been with us for a long time, that take the leads, we call them, and help the people that way.
Okay.
So,
practically speaking, we all have cell phones. I have a safe sleeve on my phone. I love their products. I have found them to be very effective. What are your thoughts? Not necessarily on this product, but what would you advise our listening audience right now? Tell us why your products are unique, because there's a lot of stuff out there.
So what makes our products unique is when I set out to solve this problem, I actually worked for a great company that had products that helped remediate EMFs to a degree. It was a nutrition company, but they also made products to remediate EMFs. And they worked a little bit. And that was the best one I could find. And that's the 3 things I put on a cell phone. I didn't work for them when I was a practitioner, but they had the best product, but they didn't know why it worked. So, and I started researching. Nobody explained how an EMF can even hurt you. So why are there all these different solutions? Like we said, there's grounding, there's negative ions, there's human waves, there's scalar waves, there's blocking, all these different things are out there. Who's right? They all think they're right. Well, you can't fix a car by fixing the carburetor and then the steering wheel and then, changing the oil. Like, one of the things broke the car, right? Fix that thing and your car's working. So what is going on here? And I had to first figure out, and we're the first person that bridged the gap between how a low frequency EMF, and I say low frequency, your cell phone puts off up to 5-6 billion waves per second. That's the frequency of that radiation. Like an X-ray is trillions of waves a second. This is only billions of waves a second. But scientifically, that radiation cannot directly damage DNA. So the physicists are scratching their heads and they're going, there's no way this is damaging DNA. Because like an X-ray does it directly, this does not. So the biologists don't know the science on the physicists, on the physics and the electrical engineering side, saying, but wait a minute, we have thousands of studies showing that these lower frequencies are damaging people. So we know it's happening. So there's like a fight between those two disciplines. That's one of the reasons why we're here too. So we had to figure that out. And what we figured out is not directly damaging your DNA like an X-ray. It's indirectly damaging it. So what happens is, it doesn't matter if the frequency is 5 billion waves a second, like most routers, or 1 billion waves a second, like a phone call, or 60 waves a second, like your electrical power lines and electricity in your house, it takes a little more at a low frequency, but all that radiation is photons traveling light speed, carrying energy. That's what radiation is, okay? And how fast they oscillate, we just call that different things, like a radio wave, microwave, X-ray, gamma ray, and so forth. So how the heck is this hurting us? We figured it out. And I'm going to try to simplify it. There's a great video on our website to explain it better, because with illustrations, it's easy to understand. So when EMFs are coming from a cell tower, let's say there's a cell tower over here, and the cell tower is sending radiation trying to get to my cell phone here. Well, some of that radiation, some of those photons travel through the wall and smash into particles in the wall. And some of them make it all the way through the wall without hitting any particles, and they get all the way to my antenna so I can use my cell phone. The ones that didn't make it got absorbed into my house, into the wall, into the floor, into the chair. And what happens is they shake and vibrate molecules. Just like your microwave oven does when you cook food, that's how it heats it. It shakes and vibrates the molecules. They're smashing into each other, creates heat, heats your food. Well, most people don't realize your router is a microwave oven, uses the same exact frequency with no walls on it. It just sends it out so that everything can receive these signals instead of keeping inside to all get absorbed in the food. It's all getting absorbed in the wall and your phone and you and everything around you. So this absorbed radiation is shaking.
Like splash. Huh? It's a splash almost.
Yeah. So this absorbed radiation is shaking and vibrating molecules. It's real subtle. Some people are sensitive, can feel that kind of stuff. They feel the chaos of it. Most people can't. So it's subtle, but it's shaking and vibrating. That is fooling something in our cells. It's called a voltage-gated calcium channel, okay? Our cell has a membrane, and the membrane of the cell, it's like has a round hole, a square hole. Like it's like that where a certain thing gets in that certain channel. So there's one channel that lets magnesium in. There's a different one that lets sodium in, different one for amino acid. There's one for double ion calcium molecules. And that channel, because of the shaking and vibrating, is malfunctioning, and it's opening. Wow. But it's not supposed to. So now the calcium floating around your blood, which is the most abundant thing in your body, is flying into the cell when it shouldn't. Your cell is having too many double ion calcium molecules entering. And in experiments we did and others, it's doubling and tripling in a very, very short amount of time. That double ion calcium molecule means two positive charges, means the charge of your cell is messed up. And this is, I'm quoting like Dr. Martin Pall and other people that did the homework before I got here on this. It's causing nitric oxide imbalances, free radical damage, and all that mess leads to DNA damage. So we know the process, it all adds up. Boom, 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 boom. We just figured out that it's the subatomic chaos from the shaking and vibrating of the absorbed radiation that's causing malfunction. And how that's happening. Everybody else said it's not possible. Well, it's not, because it's a domino effect. Radiation gets absorbed, shakes and vibrates. That travels through solid material really well. It gets to you, and bam, you have a reaction to it. And that travels through solid materials, that shaking and vibrating.
Wow. 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 And wow.
So there's
science. Do you have a printout, a visual printout of what you're describing?
Yeah, we have a video on our website that's, I think the opening page has like a 4-minute video you can watch, and it visually kind of goes through this and shows you how this works. And people like Dr. Martin Pall, who are he's not a medical doctor. He's I forget his title, but basically he's like a medical doctor. The medical doctors and those people are the ones that are coming up with what does that mean when these malfunctions happen. And they say that from this calcium channel malfunction and this calcium huge overload and DNA damage and all the stuff, that can explain all of the symptoms that are described by all the experts and all the studies. So if those things happen, that could absolutely describe heart palpitations. It could describe anything else. Says Dr. Martin Pall, not me.
Anxiety. It can describe it can describe the anxiety, the unprecedented measure of anxiety that people are experiencing.
So there's a lot of that. So anxiety, it's weird. What a coincidence. Chronic fatigue in the last, a couple of decades or so, I read recently, went up 11,000%, Wow. And reproductive abilities have gone down because not only did men have less than half the sperm, but my wife's 38, in her early 30s. We have a 5-year-old now. When she was getting pregnant, all her friends in her early 30s, like many of them, not one, like a chunk of her friends were having to go to clinics because they were having a hard time having kids. That's not where I grew up. Like, that just didn't happen a couple of decades ago. That's bizarre. And that could be directly linked to this because the studies show how much it really, really rips reproductive abilities a new one. And that's scary. I can tell you some studies, and Barry Trower, a scientist that used to study this, talks about that. That's probably the way we're being affected the most significantly because it's affecting our grandkids more than even us, our kids and grandkids especially, or their ability to even be born.
Wow. So what can people expect from applying the information that you're giving us and using some of these resources? What can we expect? Some of your products, because you give, obviously you have solutions. Right. That's what's beautiful. That's why I wanted everybody to hear from you. You have practical solutions. What can people expect? And what do you have available for them?
What makes our solutions totally unique is the fact that we're addressing the subatomic chaos. We're not addressing the EMF itself. We're not trying to block it.
That's right.
Because if your phone totally blocked the EMFs, if that safe sleeve completely blocked them, you would not have a phone call. You wouldn't get on the internet. It wouldn't work anymore. Wouldn't get a text. So you got to have some radiation coming on and off that phone. It may tone it down and redirect some of it. But trust me, if I put this meter up, and I've done it many times to different phone blockers, it still works. It still has radiation coming off it. Like I said,
so it's the subatomic
So
implications.
So our products address the subatomic chaos. Nobody's doing that. That's why our products are hitting the nail on the head like nobody's business. When we fix a house, and everybody's stuff in it, like you fix your phone, you wear a product that protects you everywhere you go, you fix your house, you can even fix your cubicle at work. We get a testimonial like about half the time we fix a house. And our most common testimonial is better sleep, more energy by far, but we have clear thinking and we have a whole bunch of other stuff.
You can only imagine the implications this has on interpersonal relationships when people aren't sleeping, when they feel massive levels of fatigue. You can only imagine the confusion and the chaos that plays out in how people are interacting. You can see something is really wrong. So I'm so hopeful. I'm excited, by the way, to try this myself and to bring this into our workspace.
So one thing that's happened recently, this is important to note, is something in the world. You mentioned something like people are, something's going on where people are feeling a lot more something, stress, anxiety, something recently. Well, in the last 4 years, just over 4 years, we've had to take the main product that we have. I say main product because it does the most good for a house. It's called the Home Harmonizer. This is what protects you from all the stuff outside the house trying to come in. Okay? Cell towers on the ground, cell towers in outer space, your smart meter, your neighbor's smart meter, their Wi-Fi, SCADA poles, and on and on. Power lines, whatever. So this protects you from all that. This product would go by your smart meter, by the way. This pole would be coming off with somebody's electric meter. And this is one of 4 ways that you can install it. The reason I bring it up is because this product that protects the most from everything outside the house had to be made 4 times stronger over the last 4 years.
Wow.
So 4 years ago, this was a quarter of the strength, and it worked just fine for the average house. We only needed more if you had a cell tower next to you, solar panels on your house, big power lines next to you, or a transformer real close to your house. Otherwise, one used to work. And I have reps that test this stuff all over the country. So what happened is all these canaries in a coal mine and muscle testing reps I have out there were saying, hey, Cory, one of these home harmonizers is not working on the houses anymore.
That's right.
And then I say, really? So I hear this, so we get it stronger. And then I hear it again, it's stronger. So it seemed to level off the last year or two, but man, it went skyrocketed for a couple of years there. It was crazy. And that's never happened in the 10 plus years we've been doing this. That's a really big increase in a short amount of time.
It's about a 5x5 box, 6x6 box with a white.
Yeah, it's a 4-inch cube. It's a 4-inch cube full of our natural materials. That's how we do it. We know how to test natural materials. There's a video on my website showing you we tested 3 ways. I don't give away our secrets. There's a meter that I don't name what it does.
Right.
You can see us put material in and how it's giving different number measurements. We know that it has to be balanced, these 3 properties, to properly work, to harmonize or remediate the subatomic chaos so that we don't have the reactions to EMF. And
how much does something like that cost for a 2,000 square foot home?
the home harmonizer box, which is the most important product, is just over $500.
Wow.
Retail.
So it's manageable, it's accessible.
Yeah, we have not raised our prices, but one small time in like a decade. We try real hard to make it affordable for everybody. Our costs have gone skyrocketing. We try real hard to keep them, just affordable for that reason. A lot of people have said, you can charge so much more. And I'm like, it's not about the money. I want people to fix their houses. I'm trying to help people.
Yeah, do well. Thank you for that. If somebody has a 5 or a 10,000 square foot home, do they need more?
That's where one of our reps comes into play. So you can ask these questions to a rep and say, they'll ask you all the right questions. They'll go through how big is your house? Is it a condo? Is it a house, apartment? Is it, and ask you all some of the questions I just named. Do you have solar panels on your house? Where's the nearest cell tower to you that you know of? And stuff like that. So we'll just make sure that we get the right amount on your home.
Yeah,
but usually it's
that's
one.
Fantastic.
Unless it's an unusual situation, usually one of those. When you go over a 3,000 square foot house, though, that's when you start wanting to add a little bit more than that.
Okay. The other question is, that's something you can do for your house. What can you do for your office? What can you do for your body? What can you do for your car? A lot of people have electric cars. What do you advise?
So that's the main product for the house. We like to add on this, which is a little $44 thing you slide underneath your mattress. It finishes off to make sure your bed's perfect. That's where you sleep's the most important, give or take 8 hours a day. Because resting isn't just about sleeping and dreaming, which is nice.
Right.
It's about preparing. It's about making melatonin that repairs you. It's about making the adrenaline for the next day. Most of the adrenaline you're using today is made last night. So if you don't rest properly, so that's why it's so important to have that. I would say that the top 3 most important products would be, one, not in this order, but one is a cell phone chip that goes on the back of a cell phone. It's a little chip, and you put it on the back of a cell phone. If you have an iPhone, you need a different chip. It's called an iCell chip. It's a different color, different properties in here. The new iPhones from 12 and up put magnets in their phone that messed with how our products work. So we had to go back to the drawing board and make something that worked with iPhones, the new iPhones.
And how much do those run? So people have a gauge.
79 and 84.
That's wonderful.
And the nice thing is you spend $1,000 to $1,600 for a cell phone. This is less than $100, and then you take it, you get a new phone every couple of years, and you just take it off and put it on the next phone. Unless something like happens drastic, like iPhone putting magnets in there, you should be able to use it like for a long time. Those did not have to be increased in strength in the last 4 years. So if something happened to the whole planet, it ain't your cell phone, because these chips are working just fine. But fixing your cell phone, because they're so strong, and let me show people how strong. How's that?
Please. This will be on a YouTube channel as well. I just want to remind our listening audience, you can go to our YouTube channel.
So this is a meter that measures radio waves or microwaves, synonymous. And these are frequencies that, in the billions of waves per second range, hundreds of millions and billions of waves per second. So this is measuring microwatts per meter squared. You can see right now I'm looking at, it's like 100. It jumps up and down from 100-ish in that range. The Bio Initiative, that's people who don't sell products, have no agenda, not funded by anybody with an agenda. The people that have 1,800 studies summarized on one page and all that I talked about earlier, they say when this goes over 6, you have biological effects in their studies.
Wow.
And something just made it jump up. Now, I am near a laptop, so that's why this is directional, but some of the radiation is going to hit it a little bit, so I'm by a laptop. But let's look at my cell phone. Let's take an average cell phone. Let's put the cell phone up here. You can hear it screaming. What number does it say?
Yeah.
Can you read it?
1.
1. And watch it go back down from 2,000 when I remove the cell phone. So it means this goes up to 2,000. My cell phone, just turning it on, maxes out this meter immediately. 1 means it went over 2,000. It doesn't know how high it is. I can tell you I have another fancy meter that isn't directional, but when you put it near a cell phones occasionally spike over 200,000 microwatts per meter squared. That's a lot more than 6, which the experts say is the place you want to be under, right? So cell phones, very important to fix. They got them real strong. And by the way, I got to stop and say I love the technology. I was the first to go get a 5G phone. First of all, I wanted to make sure our product still worked on it, and it does. But second of all, I love the technology. I'm not bashing it, but if you don't address it, you're insane. Knowing what I've known, what I know, if you look on our website, you can see studies. I looked at my blood under a microscope. Not me. A guy pricks my finger, looks under a microscope. We had a study done, but I did most of our studies myself too. I wanted to see how it affected me. And you can see the blood isn't, it looks good. Then you make a call without our product on the phone, and your blood starts sticking together, slowing down, gets all clumped up. It's called agglutination or rouleau. In 2 minutes, actually maybe less than 2 minutes, because we always did it 2 or 3 minutes, our studies. And then you put our chip back on, you continue the call, and then you prick your phone, it goes right back to normal looking. It's crazy how fast this stuff is. But your phone is very important to fix. And people can see videos of the blood on our website, like this whole experiment and lots of others. But this is what I like. I call it it's the EMF card now. The XXL card is just XXL in strength. So it's like a credit card size. I put it in my back pocket when I get up in the morning. That way when I'm out and about, I'm mostly protected, not all the way. It's hard to protect a person when you're around all this stuff, but it's mostly protecting you. So when you're at the gym, going to the grocery store, whatever, that's what I like to wear because I can slip it in my back pocket. If you're a girl and you wear yoga pants, dresses, skirts, whatever, you don't have pockets all the time, you might opt for. Now my wife likes to put that in her bra. She cuts it.
Yes.
She puts it away from her heart just because it's got a really extremely weak magnet in it. So weak you can put metal on it. You don't even feel any pull. It's so weak. But it helps activate our material in there. But just because of that, I say don't put it around your heart. I don't want to get a lawsuit. Somebody, pacemaker had a problem or something, right? So she cuts a slice like in her bra, slips it between the front and back material, and it's just in there all the time. And I forget, and I go to hug her, and I kind of feel it sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot it was in there. But we also have this is a product for kids, but we have a little bit bigger one. It looks like a watch, like almost a cell phone watch. And this is, my daughter never leaves the house without one of these. It's just what we do. It's just, she's done it since she was born, basically. Used to fit on her ankle when she was real small, and now she puts it on her wrist because she's 5. We have 4 different colors of these. So this is important when you're not home. If you fix your house, you don't have to wear the stuff in the house. We just do it in the morning, come back at night, take it off. We're in a good environment. We don't have to wear it when we sleep, So getting some personal protection product, super important. Fixing your cell phone, super important. And the third thing was fix where you sleep. And where you sleep can be fixed inexpensively by putting a room harmonizer. This just has 2 plastic prongs that go into and they don't have to be metal because we're taking a field in here, putting them in the metal wires, and where the metal wire goes, it spreads. This is only strong enough to do a small area, half a room to a couple rooms, depending on how bad it is in the room. But you put this as close to your bed as you can get it, and that can take care of your sleeping environment. So, for $149 and depending on what, I forget what this is, 54, I want to say. Top of my head, I forgot. For a few $100, you can do a lot of good.
Yeah. So for $1,000, you have your house, your body, your sleeping environment, and your phone.
Well, your house, that protects outside the house. But if you have a router inside, those are pretty strong. The home harmonizer will make your router a lot less strong. But a little clip for $39, there's a little chip in here, and we just have a plastic clip that clips to the router cord. You just clip it on the back of a router and slide it as close as you can on the electric cord. And then your router's taken care of, or any other electrical devices that are giving Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Your router is by far the most important. I would say if you have cameras in your baby room, in your child's room, which we do still, really important because that's where you sleep. You don't want that kind of radiation being right above the bed. Mm-hmm. I've had testimonials of, the president of the California Chiropractic Association, for instance. He had solar panel house. We fixed his house. We put this on the on the camera, because he had the cord running right by the crib, and it was right over the bed. So we fixed the solar, we remediated everything, put this on that, And the wife saw me in church the next week. We went to the same church at the time, and she came up to me and she's like, look, I don't believe in all this stuff that my husband does. He's a chiropractor. He does all this crazy stuff. And I didn't believe in whatever you were doing, but this is the first night my son slept in. Like, he normally wakes up at like 5:30 in the morning. She's like, I checked on him at 6:30. I checked on him again at 7. I checked and finally had to wake him up at 7:30 because I was so worried about him. And he woke up, and for the first time, he didn't have a sniffly nose in like months. So that's just not an uncommon story from doing this. Better sleep and more energy is like common.
This may be a wild question. By the way, thank you for going through the products and all this. We're going to make all this available all this information available to everyone, and put some extra links in there for the research and, of course, your website and all of that. But beyond all this, something just struck me, and I don't know why. Mold. A lot of people have mold in their home. Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about if there's a correlation between mold and these environmental insults, how it interacts with one another? I don't know why that question just came to me.
Well, that's a really good question. So I have too much experience with it, which I didn't want to have. So Dr. Klinghardt talks about a colleague of his in Switzerland, I believe, who did an experiment and showed that mold grows or produces 600 times more mycotoxins when exposed to EMFs versus in a Faraday cage. Not exposed to EMFs, basically. Faraday cage blocks the EMFs. And we don't know why, but I'm just going to guess that mold likes to survive. So when you try to, like a bacteria, parasite, or whatever, when you try to kill it with something, it bounces back stronger. It tries to get better, figure it out. It's an intelligent thing. It's scary. So when you attack it with EMFs, because EMFs probably, I'm guessing, aren't good for mold either, right?
Right.
It defends itself, and then it tries to grow and so forth. That's the theory of Dr. Klinghardt and those guys. So I heard about this, and I did a couple of experiments. I did a few. And so far, we're getting amazing results. So I'd like to do an official clinical trial study on this, but let me just tell you, I squirt 2 pieces of bread, and I think this is online too. You can go on our website and see a video of this. I squirt 2 pieces of bread, put them next on either side of a router that I didn't fix, which I hate doing, but for the experiment. And under one of them, I put the Better Z's that goes in your bed. On the other, because it's right next to a router. And the other one, I had nothing. Well, the one that, and picture's worth 1,000 words, the one that did not have my product under it started growing mold on the corner of the bread that was closest to the router first. And it spread from that corner on back until it got the whole piece of bread was just like covered in this green, icky mold, green and black mold. That happened in 7 days. I had to throw that piece of bread out because it was the first time I did this experiment, and it was in my house. I'm like, ugh. It was in a plastic bag, but I'm still like, that's a lot of mold. Like, I'm going to get it out of here. So in 7 days, I had to chuck it. It was so nasty. I left the other one there. 30 days later, I never saw a speck on it.
Interesting.
So I said, that's interesting. I did it again on a smart meter. Same thing, same similar result, where like the one that had our product on it was like, it eventually grew mold, but it was very slow. The one without our product was growing very, very fast. Then we finally did one we put 2 Petri dishes to make it more official. Exposed the Petri dishes to the same mold environment, covered them, put them in Faraday cages, which blocks all the external EMFs, put a router in each, and we fixed one with our products. The other one had no products. And the same thing, you can see that on our website, where the one started visually growing mold in the same amount of time. There's no visible mold in the other one. So it doesn't mean we stop mold growth by fixing EMFs. But the few studies we've done are suggesting that maybe by fixing EMFs, you're not attacking, like they don't feel attacked, and maybe it's not going to be as growing as fast or as big a problem. So again, I want to get into a clinical study in the future to prove that, so I can say it without a shadow of a doubt. But in our internal experiments, it's pretty awesome, the videos and pictures you can see of what we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
My best guess would be that it just is not being attacked, so it's growing at a normal rate. Or sometimes it doesn't grow. It's growing at it's just doing what it would normally do.
I'm seeing an increase in illnesses associated with mold.
I know.
And the only correlating factor I can imagine are these environmental insults
Yes.
that we have. So that question came out of the blue, but I think it's something.
There may be a very serious correlation there. I don't know, but that's something worth investigating. Now, in a petri dish, it looks like that's happening. What about in our bodies?
Right.
Is the same thing happening? I don't know, but it's worth somebody looking into, and maybe one day we'll do. I stay away from medical things, so I will never do experiments in the body on that. Right. Because I don't want to be, practicing medicine without a license or whatever. Like if you start trampling the pharmaceutical companies' toes, that's not good.
I agree, but people have liberty to start connecting some dots.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would just invite our listening audience, if you're suffering from anything like this, I believe the correlation between these things, at least it's worth being curious about, wondering about, curiosity, right? In many different realms, I think right now, and on many different levels, it's a great time to be alive because we have access to so much wonderful information, and we can test some of these things on ourselves. What else? I just think it's fascinating. I think we can be instruments of healing, and thank God for people like you that have really put in the time and put their money where their mouth is to develop some of these products, and just that you have the strength and the courage and the endurance to persevere and be on the front line of these discussions. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I see something's wrong, but that's not my sphere of influence, nor is it, in a place where I have any authority, but I do reason and I do connect dots and I do wonder a lot about a lot of things. And the world's gods and everything in it, and the interconnection in the relationship between these things, it's really fascinating. So I think there's a lot of healing at our disposal. So I'm really thankful for this conversation. Cory, thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Absolutely. If people want to have faith in our products too, we talked about what Dr. Martin Pall and 20 some other studies did, and they think that the root cause comes from these calcium channel malfunctions. So like all the others, it took me years to finally find a research place that could do tests on human cells and the calcium levels in the human cells. So we tested cells, multiple cells in the body and in the lab, and they repeated the same thing everybody else found, that when it was next to a router or close by to a router within about a foot, the calcium levels doubled or tripled in a couple of different studies we did in very short time. When our products were applied, it completely fixed the problem. That's never been done. So the probability function was 0.0001. And I don't know the research study lingo, but basically I said, so that means it's almost guaranteed that our products work. And she said, absolutely. I said, why wasn't it 100%? Why was it 99.999% instead of 100? And she said, because the way this kind of study was designed, it can't get to that 0.0000. That was the best it could get. If it's 0.05, it's conclusive. Your 0.0001 is the best. So we know our products are doing what they're supposed to do to address the subatomic chaos, because we fix what Dr. Martin Pall and others are saying is the root cause of how EMFs are hurting us. So nobody's done that ever. So we are the first and only company to be able to make that claim, to show that in a lab. So all the studies we have are cool. All the testimonials, we have way more testimonials than anybody. But that's the biggest, weapon we have when we talk about comparing us to anybody else. Nobody touches.
Well, I have some very specific cases and some very specific situations. We deal with highly compromised first responders, firemen, police officers, veterans, and we use all kinds of amazing modalities. And to be honest with you, we're experiencing unbelievable results. So I look forward to collaborating with you.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring your stuff online here. So we're going to make an appointment right away. I want to advance this well beyond this little conversation we had today. I'd like to talk to you about that. And I believe the EMFs, the radios, the technology they're using, all that, I think it's compounding the obvious.
They have a lot of EMFs they walk around with, and metal attracts and amplifies the negative effects of EMFs, the subatomic chaos. So they have guns and metal tools all over them, plus all the radios and the EMFs, plus their cell phone. I mean, they are loaded up. And the more metal you put on somebody, you walk around now, the more they're getting major effects.
Sapped.
So I have science that shows that the subatomic chaos affects water, which is in us. It affects metal 100 times more with the subatomic chaos. So 100 times more. So you walk around with all this metal is not good.
We're doing revolutionary work in mental health, and you cannot deal with mental health without dealing with these insults, environmental insults. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's real.
People are losing their mind.
It's real important so that other stuff works better, basically.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing that's important? So
yes.
If people fix, their cell phone, they may not, the chances of a testimonial are very low. Some sensitive people can tell. But when they fix their whole house right and they do it right, the chances of a testimonial go through the roof. They're pretty high. I'm almost shocked when people don't have a testimonial. We don't fix any specific medical condition whatsoever. We just take away a giant stress off you. That's all.
Right.
And with that extra energy, your body's going to apply it to what you need. And so some people notice and some people don't. But the thing I want to say is that one of the ways our products work better than anything else in the world is because we're taking a really big problem now and taking it down to almost nothing. And if you do it all at once, you're going to feel a shift. And there's at least, it's going up. It's at least 25% of the time people will detox.
They're going to feel a shift.
They could detox. So their body gets all this extra energy and goes, what am I going to do with this energy? I'm going to flush a bunch of toxins out. I'm going to improve digestion. I'm going to kill some bugs in my gut. The Herxheimer effect is one thing that people go through. So 25% of the time. Now, if somebody has Lyme disease and they fix everything at once, 98% chance they are going to detox and feel it. So if you're one of those people where you don't want to detox, or you're older, your health's frail or whatever, then I highly suggest doing it in steps. And just read the sheet that comes with the products. It talks about detox. It talks about nutrition you can do to support your detox organs. That drastically helps. And you can add the products in steps, so it's a slow transition. I've done that with 95-year-old cancer patients and never had a problem. They never had a hiccup. So you can do it like that. And I hate to say the C word, but I've had really unhealthy people. Now, I'm not their medical doctor, but I just did it slow because I didn't want to jostle them and change their environment too fast. You don't want to take somebody who ate McDonald's for 30 years and do a 100% raw diet the next day. Like, it's too big a shift all at once. Their body's going to flip out, right? So if you're sick or frail, I would do it in smaller steps. It's smart. Our instructions say to do it that way. But if somebody is detoxing, if you're healthy and you just jump into it, and you're detoxing, you get a headache or you feel a little off, like you're getting sick, but you're not, or your energy's lower than normal, you sleep worse than normal. This is good. This is your body detoxing. It's never lasted on one customer ever. Most people are 1 to 3 days if you're normal health, so to speak. And you can always just remove the products in 2 seconds and then you're back to normal, and then add them in slow steps if you want. So I do like it when people put it all at once, because then they feel the shift and they go, oh, this isn't just sand in a box. This is legit, because they feel it.
Well, I'm going to do something I've never done. We don't usually promote products or things like that here, although we make products and things like this available, especially the displace confusion, chaos, and dis-ease, I told you, in the spirit solar body, but we've never done anything quite like this. But what I'd like to do is invite our listening audience to rally with us. I'm going to take the lead on this. Jonathan's son, we just had an incredible podcast, a 2 or 3 segment podcast. Incredible because we couldn't believe what we watched and what we lived through. Among one of the significant things that he and Amanda did was mitigate the electrical environment. They mitigated that. They did something with their smart meter. And they saw very specific, tangible consequences to that. So this is fantastic. So I do want to invite everyone listening If you feel compelled, please email info@theplaceofrest.com and let us know that you're going to be joining us. But Cory, I'd like to have you back in a few months, 2 or 3 months, 4 months, because I'm going to get everything. I'm going to do exactly what you said. My husband currently is not well and has a compromised immune system. So I'll talk to your rep or to you and ask how you would advise us to implement it, to roll it out.
Yeah.
The
Your body might decide to fix itself, so to speak, faster than you just really want it to happen, so you can slow that down so you don't really have to feel it.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we'll talk to you about that. But I do want to invite everyone to take this very seriously, because what Cory's talking to us about is really a silent killer. Nobody wants to use those words, but it's slowly compromising us to oblivion.
We have a 60-day return policy. So people can try the products and just send them back. I always advise, if anybody ever does that. It's funny, one of my top reps and manager now, Kathy, she always says, okay, unplug all the products, take them off, put them in a pile not next to anything electrical in your house so it stops working, and let it sit there for 3 days before you return them. And she has almost never gotten a return, maybe one, because when you put it on and you feel a little better in some way, perhaps you don't notice it. People don't notice when their little arm, shoulder pain is gone. But when it comes back, they notice it. And so a lot of times people make that switch and then they go, oh, I'm tired when I wake up in the morning now. I wasn't so tired yesterday. Oh, I took the products off, So it's funny, but we do have a 60-day return policy that people can just return it for no reason. They don't have to have a reason. So just putting it out there for people if they're afraid to try it.
Well, I'd like to have you back. Thank you so much. We're going to. And if nothing else, I'd like to have you back and talk to you about the consequence of bringing all your products online here at the office and at the villa, which is our headquarters, and in our home, and what the consequence of that has been. And I want to, again, invite anyone listening that wants to rally with us, do it. Under $1,000 is what I gathered. I could get every single one of your products for under $1,000, and one IV treatment and a doctor's appointment is well over that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your work, Cory. This is fantastic. I'm literally so excited. Those of you who will be joining me and Jonathan and his family, but those of you who are going to give this a try, let us know so we can post the testimonials after, so we can track the experiences we're having. Let's have a conversation about this so we can expand this message of rest and the hope of healing, right? There's no rest, there's no healing. And when all these things are insulting our health, we can't heal. So thank you so much, Cory.
Thank you so much.
We hope listening to this episode has brought you closer to experiencing the freedom of wholeness and healing. If you have questions or comments about today's episode, or for updates about R.E.S.T, please visit our Instagram or Facebook at The Place of R.E.S.T. If you would like more information about Virginia, or to support and join the cause of R.E.S.T, please go to theplaceofrest.com/donate or call 949-289-5935. Thank you for listening to Rest with Virginia Dixon. We'll see you next week.